Hey guys, this is Dooley. In this video, we will continue talking about the file system module in Node.js. And today, we will look into how we can read the contents of the file and then print it to the console or do whatever we want with it, whatever the need we have is for reading that file. Okay, so the functions that we can use to directly do this are the fs.read and fs.readSync functions, where you'll provide a file descriptor, a buffer to hold the contents you read from the file, and offset to essentially tell the function where in the buffer you'd like to start putting data, the length, which will tell the function how much of the data from the file you want to read, the position, which is where in the file you want to start reading. Okay, so for the asynchronous function, you'll provide a callback which will get two arguments, an error argument and bytes, the number of bytes that was read from the file. And if you use the synchronous version as return value, you get the number of bytes that was read from the file. Alright, so this is where we left off with the open file, with the open, where we tried to open the file, in the video where we tried to open the file. And you can see, we got fs.open, we're opening the dir file, we're opening to read and write. We get error and file descriptor passed in. If there's an error, we print that code and message. And if there's no error, we just print if the file opening was successful, and we close it. And you can see this is what we're getting here. Now, let's get into reading the contents of the file. Right, so we can do this in here, right? But we are going to need a buffer, and we're going to need the size of the file. See if you want to read the whole file. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this buffer here. Now we'll need a size to give the buffer. Now let's just give the buffer the size of the file. Alright, so let's get the size of the file. Let file size, the file size I want is going to be the size of the file. So let's go ahead and get the stats for the file. So fs .sync. Okay, I want to do this synchronously. Let's give it the path to the file. Actually, that's all you need to provide, and just get the size out of it. Okay, now we can go ahead and verify that we're getting a size for that. Okay, let's just print file size. Okay, we can run this and see what we're getting. We get 226, and the unit for that is bytes. So 226 bytes is what's in that file. Okay, so we can look at this for a little bit. This is the dir.txt. Yeah, it's about right. Could be 226 bytes. Alright, so let's go back in here and continue our work. The next thing we'll need is a buffer, right? So let's create a buffer. We're gonna let buff be a new buffer with the size of the file. Okay, so we got our buffer, we got the size of the file. Now let's go ahead and begin reading. Okay, so let's do the first reading synchronously. Okay, so let's create a local variable here, which will hold the number of bytes that's in that file. So let's do fs.readSync. Okay, what we'll need to provide is the file descriptor, the buffer, the offset, which is 0. I want to start putting data at the beginning of that buffer. The next thing we'll need to provide is the size of the file. We know that, file size. The next thing we'll provide is the position position of the file you want to start reading. I want to start reading at the beginning of the file. So that's what we'll provide. Now the next thing we can do here is just print and see how much of the bytes we got. Now what we expect here is 226, right? Because the file is 226 and we provided here that we want to read 226 bytes from the beginning to that amount. Okay, so let's go ahead and print and see if we got the right data here. So console.log okay, bytes is going to be bytes. Okay, is this what are we getting? 226? Yes, we are. So we read the right amount of data. So next is we can print the contents of the buffer to see if we got the right data. So in the buffer, we're expecting to get this data right here. Okay, this list of stuff. All right, so let's print that. Content is going to be, oops, the buffer. The buffer is contains binary data. So what we want to do here is, since the encoding is UTF-8, we can just do toString here to get it printed in string format. Let's run that, see what we get. Let me open this up a little bit. Right, you can see that that's where we call to run the program. You can see that we're printing that the file was opened successfully. That's from before, and this is the line that's doing that. Then we have a line printing the number of bytes, okay, 226. Then we have a line printing the contents, okay. So this is the content that we're printing right here. And after that, we have made a call to close the file, which is what's printing right here. All right, so this is the synchronous way of doing it. So let's get rid of that. Let's do it asynchronously. Okay, well, you will provide a callback. Okay, so let's do that. fs.read instead of readSync. Okay, still we will provide the file descriptor, then the buffer, buff. Again, offset is 0. Same here, file size and the position is 0. Oops. But we will have a callback. This callback will get an error in the bytes. That's the number of bytes that was read by the function. Okay, so now if there's an error, oops, you can print that error message. Okay, you print that error message. The next thing you can do is the same we did earlier. We can print the bytes. Okay, and also the content of the buffer. Alright, so this is supposed to behave almost exactly like the previous one, except that the timing will be different. Okay, so this is behaving exactly the same. Not exactly, but very similarly. Okay, so what's different here is that we are now using a callback to do the rest. We don't expect to know when this function is going to finish reading. We don't know when it's synchronous either, but we know it's happening sequentially. We will always, whatever we do here, okay, we don't necessarily know if it's going to run first, if it's going to run first or if it's going to run after, because this is by nature asynchronous and the previous year was synchronous. If we had done the synchronous call here and did a bunch of stuff after that, it could be that these things that we do after that run before we are done reading the file, and these statements will be printed. Alright, so this is the video, guys. We've essentially learned how to use the fs.read and fs.readSync functions to read the contents of a particular file. You can do it synchronously or asynchronously depending on which of these functions you use, and always make sure you handle your errors. This here we're just printing the errors, but you could decide to throw an exception if you like, and essentially that's how you read a file in Node.js. There are other ways, but these are the direct ways. If you open the file and you have access to a file descriptor, that is the way to do it. Alright, so this is Dooley again. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you like the videos. I'll see you next time. Bye.